it sucks. What you're feeling right now does not feel good. And it's okay it doesn't feel good. At the same time, you're not by yourself. Everyone around you may not understand like what you're feeling, but there are people out here that do. The only way you find those people is if you're able to articulate what's going on with you. Because if you don't do so, no one's gonna know. You're not alone. You're not by yourself. There are people who can help, but you gotta receive it soon or you're not gonna get any better.
Welcome back to the podcast. I started this podcast as a way to help Black men in all aspects of our lives. Studies show on average we lose 2.8 years of our life when we're under heavy stress. And I think we can gain those 2.8 years back if we express ourselves healthily. Stick with me as I interview therapists, doctors, advocates, activists, and friends about how we can be better as Black men and as a Black community. If you're not subscribed to us on YouTube and following us on Instagram and TikTok, you'll definitely want to do that. Without further ado, let's get into the episode.
All right, y'all. We are back with another episode, man. This is going to be a good one. We are here with Miles. Miles, how are you, bro?
Good, man. I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Listen, man, I feel like you have good energy. I have good energy. We got another brother in here, Nigel. We're going to do an episode with Nigel, too. Nigel has good energy. It's a bunch of Black brothers with good energy in here, right? So we about to have a great episode, bro.
Yeah,
and so I'm excited about it, bro. First of all, before we even get started talking about anything, I want you to tell the people who you are, what it is that you do.
I'm Miles Williams. I am an educator. For lack of all the titles don't matter, but at the end of the day, I feel like I'm an educator. I'm currently an elementary school principal. I've been doing that for 3 years now. I've been in school leadership for 7. And I love what I do, man. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done
Really?
done in my life, man. It's challenging, man. Really? It's challenging. And and so this is my last year as principal, man. And I'm glad we're talking right now because I'm in a transition phase where I'm like, emotionally, it's hard for me, bro. Mm-hmm. And so I'm glad we're able to talk about that.
Yeah. So talk to me, bro. So, I had a whole script, but I love going off script. I feel like this is the perfect time to have the conversation. What's so hard about the transition for you right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna allow myself to be vulnerable in this space, man. I feel I'm probably gonna cry, but I want to name that on the front end because, man, it's challenging because when you've put so much time and energy and effort into a community or a relationship, right? A relationship with a community, relationship with people. And then you know that there's an end. That's hard to deal with.
Yeah.
I'm struggling a lot with other people's emotions around my transition. And so right now, like, I made the decision in my mind that this is what's best for me. But then as a person who struggles with perfectionism, as a person who struggles with people pleasing, knowing that I'm letting other people down or people feel disappointed or people feel anxious with me leaving, but also being responsible to those people, I feel this sense of like heaviness to be able to like create space or hold space for those emotions. But I also can't I don't feel comfortable yet expressing my emotions to them and being like, hey, this is how I'm feeling right now. Like when you're saying that you're scared or that you're worried about this thing or you're feeling XYZ or you're crying or whatever, I feel that I have to be strong for you and but also that's also making me feel bad about making my decision that was in my best interest. And so I'm struggling with that. I really am.
Man, yeah, you just tapped on something that's very, very important, bro. Yeah. The idea that as a Black man, although you have heavy emotions that you're dealing with through, with a decision that you've made that you feel like is best for you, other people have those emotions. And because of the role you have in their lives, they're coming to you with those emotions, which I feel like is stripping you of the ability to be able to process your own emotions.
Yeah.
You feel? Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So talk to me, like, how are you navigating that then? Like, what are you doing to
Man, I'm a compartmentalizer. So
really, okay.
So I've told people I'm not gonna allow myself to feel sadness until this time, right? And that's not healthy,
right?
Right? That's not healthy, and I know it's not healthy. And I'm still I don't want the kid. I think it's different when I'm talking to adults about like logistics. Like, hey, here's how I'm hiring my replacement. Here's how I can reassure you that you're good and we're going to be taken care of. But like, I haven't thought about the connection to the kids, because I know when the kids realize that I'm gone or I'm leaving, that's going to be a different level of emotion that I'm not ready to process yet.
Right.
And so I've been like I haven't been like, don't tell the kids, but I've definitely been like, whenever kids are talking about it, I'm like, nah, like we're going to deal with it down the road or divert it in some way. But I don't feel like I'm dealing with it. I don't feel like I'm dealing with it. I'm dealing with the best way I know how. I'll put it that way.
But would you say so? But I feel like what you're about to say is like you don't feel like you're dealing with it in a healthy way. Maybe.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say that, but I don't feel like it's unhealthy. I don't feel like it's unhealthy. I do think that, and this Nigel and I were talking about this earlier. There's a feeling that I don't feel that I have permission to feel some of the emotions that I'm feeling.
Really? Talk to me about that. Why not?
In connection with the responsibility that I also feel. So like I feel a responsibility to support folks, to protect folks, to empathize with folks, to allow them to be vulnerable and share how they're feeling. Especially like the feeling around anxiety in particular. That's a hard one for me to feel that I'm reassuring folks, because change is hard for everybody. But me saying like, I feel uncertain, or I'm scared, or or I don't know, or I'm excited to leave. Right. I'm excited for the transition for myself. It feels like I'm not able to be able to share that. And I don't know if that's something that is internal or if there's I think there's external forces that definitely play a role in that. But I'm struggling with it.
What I'm hearing is I feel like you've created space for people and you're good at creating space.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
Which is a great thing, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of black men are good at creating space for people. We're like a hub where people come and they can just like dump all the stuff that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And we kind of help them to like organize and figure out everything. And we also protect them from other factors that could potentially impact them, which is great. Like that's a good responsibility and role to have. What I find oftentimes with black men, similar to the conversation that we're having right now, is that we don't take up the space or nobody creates the space for us. So that's my first question to you is like, who's creating the space for you?
Bro, oh man, I'm so glad you asked that question, bro, because like this literally happened to me Monday.
Okay.
One of the things about being in my role is I'm responsible to and for the actions and people that I may or may not have even come in contact with during that day.
Okay.
Like parents are upset about certain things, children are upset about certain things, staff members are upset about certain things. There's like a school board who's not doing their job, and those things impact our day, et cetera, right? And that weighs on me, man. It's because I care so much, right?
Right.
And I take my job seriously, and I want to continue to be better at my craft. And so one of the things that I have to do is find ways to intentionally take care of myself. And one of the ways I really enjoy taking care of myself is yoga. It's a Black-owned yoga studio. Shout out to Magnolia Yoga in New Orleans. It's the first and I believe the only Black woman-owned yoga studio in the city, right? Mm-hmm. And so I try to make a habit of at least getting in there once a week. Like that's my thing. And when I go in there, I feel so much better. And so this past Monday, I forgot to sign up for the class. And so I'm beating myself up. I'm rushing from work. I'm like, man, like I might not be able to get in this class. I got to be able to like take care of myself. But I was also okay with being like, oh, I can't do it. Like whatever. And I get to the spot. I'm supposed to be there at 5:45. I'll probably get there at like 5:44. And I'm running in, all my clothes. I'm looking disheveled. And there's a line of like 15 people outside the yoga studio. Mm-hmm. And so the class was booked. And my yoga teacher, Ajax, was like, oh, hey, Mom, I'm so glad to see you. And I hadn't been consistently for a while. So she was like, so glad to see you. Give me your mat. And I was like, but I didn't sign up for class. She was like, give me your mat. And so I gave her my mat. And she took it into the yoga studio and like made people move around and like literally put my mat down on the ground. She said, go change your clothes and get a spot on the mat. And then she turned like 10 people away. And that act of like legit making space for me, like moving other people out the way because it's important that I'm taking care of you and like you are getting what you need from this space. I know how much this space like is life-giving for you in a moment that I really needed it. Was like, it was huge. And she didn't know she needed it, right? But like the night before, I had the closest thing that I feel like I had close to a panic attack. I've never felt that much anxiety or frustration or resentment in going into a school building. Really? And I was with my, I was sitting down, I was laying on the floor in like the weight room in the spot, and like was just like praying to God, and I was crying. And also having a partner or a person who you can lean on and allow and create that space for you is important. But was just like feeling, I was like, ask God, I was like, God, like show me that I'm worthy, show me that I have value, show me X, Y, Z. And then that happened like the next day. It was like, yo, that's special, bro. Like that's really special. And it somehow always shows up through Black women that like, they're the people who create space and make space for you, you know? Like always. And like in the time that you need it, when they know you need it, and even when you don't. And so it was really cool to be able to experience that through yoga, but then also in the time I needed it the most.
Yeah, nah, bro, that was a beautiful answer, bro. There's so many ways where we could take this, bro, but there's one thing in particular that you said that I think is so important that we need to definitely speak on, bro. Black woman, bro, because there's so much that Black women do. I'm not trying to say this to like, I feel like I see content about, you know, Black men talking about Black women is like, I know a lot of times, a lot of brothers that aren't in the right mental space, they can see that type of content like about Black men talking about Black women in a positive light and call it pandering or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
Promise you, when I'm saying this, I have no like ulterior motive or anything. Like, I'm good. I got my girl. Like, I'm not looking for anybody, right? But Black women really be holding it down. Like, really and truly be holding it down. I say this anytime, any chance I get with this platform specifically, bro. Yeah. When I look at every aspect of like what we need as a platform in order to like thrive as a business, there's been a Black woman that's been there and that's been able to help to try and propel us in certain areas. Yeah. Without trying to get anything out of it, with just pure intention, bro. Like a lot of our guests are Black women. A lot of Black women have shared this platform and had conversations with Black men to get Black men to talk and openly, and open up. Bro, like my mom is a Black woman. My therapist was a Black woman. Like my lawyer that helped us to get the trademarks, Black woman. Yeah. You feel me? Like, bro, and I'm absolutely positive that I'm missing a bunch of people, bro. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is like, I feel like as Black men, we have a responsibility to speak positively about Black women when we have an opportunity to. And I have a platform. And so I think it's important for me to have these conversations so that the brothers that are maybe in that like middle ground space that may not have had the best relationships with Black women can hear like, yo, bro, not all Black women are out here to just get you and like are talking shit and just trying to make you feel bad. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of Black women out here that are really good women that really care about the Black community, that care about Black men. But if you stay warped in like this view that you're getting from social media and like all this content that you're consuming, you will never be able to fully understand that. Like I really encourage and challenge brothers that feel that way about Black women, that have an unhealthy relationship with Black women, to really talk to Black women in real life. And I'm not talking about the women that you feel like you have a fractured relationship with. Obviously, we know that those probably aren't the greatest folks to be in community with. Right. I'm talking about actively going and seeking real community with Black women and having real conversations, not just about going on dates and like who's gonna do it. Like I'm talking about like real, like what are some of the things that interest you? Like what's important to you? Like what do you see when you're out? Like what are some things that you're passionate about? Like these type of conversations so that you can get an understanding of the people in your community and get a better understanding of Black women just in general. Because I feel like we don't do that enough. A lot of the conversations are geared around like romantic relationships, but I think what's so important for us as Black men, especially Black men that want to be in relationships with Black women, is to actively seek out platonic relationships with Black women and understand some of their challenges, understand some of their grievances, understand where they're coming from when they say certain things. Because a lot of times brothers will hear Black women say stuff and they'll just shun it, like not even try to get an understanding of why they're saying what they're saying. Like, yo, bro, what if what she's saying has some validity or truth to it? You'll never know if you never sit down and listen. So I just think we need to be a lot more open-minded and respectful with our conversations with Black women and really see them for who they are. And we're not going to get to that point unless we have those conversations. And I've realized through my journey, like, trust me, I've had my fair share of heartbreak due to Black women. Right? But at the end of the day, I also can look at the flip side of that coin and be like, yo, I've had my fair share of success, accomplishment, and healing due to Black women as well.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be on this earth if it wasn't for a Black woman.
That's it.
You feel me? So I don't know, but I know I just went on a rant, bro. I just think it's so important, bro. Like,
I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah.
I respect it, and I completely agree. I think one of the things that I really appreciate is about your platform is that you are a healthy space to talk about Black women and like encouraging other folks to be able to make sure they're doing that same work.
right.
I think one of the things that you brought up, which I think is challenging for some Black men, is having platonic relationships with Black women. I have and I think another part of that coin is having romantic relationships with Black women. I also have so many platonic Black women friends that can also often be intimidating or off-putting for people.
Yeah.
However, it's an asset in my romantic relationship because typically I want to be really strong friends with my person. Like that me and that person got to be tight and we got to be able to be very vulnerable with each other and communicate about certain things. You got to be able to call me out on the things that I'm not doing well, or that I could be better at, and vice versa. And I think that because of the strength of those platonic relationships that I have, like my sister's my best friend, bro. Like not like all day, and it wasn't always like that, but all day, every day, bro. Like if I need my sister, if I need something, if I need someone to tell me about who I am, if I need someone to lift me up, if I need someone to do anything in between, like she's that person.
Right.
My mom's that person. My grandma's that person. My leaders at school who are those people. And I think that also complicates my feelings of tension around leaving, is that I've helped Black women get opportunities. I have Black women who have given me this, helped me get this opportunity, and I don't want to see them hurt. I don't want to see them struggling with whatever they're struggling with because of my decision. And that's been a really tough thing for me too, is because I wouldn't be in the seat that I am if it wasn't for Black women paving the way and supporting me in the work that I do every single day. And so that's a hard thing for me to realize too. It's like, as I'm literally processing as I'm talking to you, is that I don't ever want them to feel hurt or betrayed or abandoned or fill in a blank emotion. As a result of me.
But here's the thing, right? Do you feel like that's a fair expectation of yourself?
Not at all.
Okay. Yeah, you get what I'm saying? Because it's like, bro, like,
not at all.
At the end of the day, right? Like, Miles, you have to do what's best for you. Obviously, not at the expense of other people, right?
Certainly.
You got to do what's best for you, right? Like, you're in a position right now where this should be seen. Like, we talked about it off camera, like what you're going to do. And I was like, bro, that's that's fire.
Yeah.
You feel me? Like, this is what you should be feeling the joy of this, right? And I feel like because of the way that I don't even want to say the way you're looking at it, because I feel like there's also some societal factors, and I want to talk about that because you mentioned that.
Yeah.
But because of the situation that's like surrounding it, and some of the perspective that you have on it is stripping you of the joy that comes with the transition.
Yeah.
Because with every transition, there's always going to be again, two sides of the coin, right?
Always.
You're going to have fear because it's like, damn, like I'm leaving this thing that I was in for a little bit of time and I got comfortable with. I'm not really sure what the next thing, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I know it's not going to be this.
Right.
There's a fear associated with that.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're also adding on top of that fear with like, damn, but also then I'm leaving all these other folks and all that kind of stuff. Right. But if you take a second to really look at it a little bit differently, there's also a lot of joy that comes with that, bro, because it's like, bro, like I'm growing.
Yeah.
I'm walking in my path. I'm aligned with what God is calling me to do. I know that there's good things that are going to come of this. Yeah. And me staying in this situation would strip me of all the good that's going to come with the transition. Right. So I just feel like, you know, like it's not fair of you, it's not fair to you to look at it like, damn, like, but I'm doing bad by all these people, because you're not.
Yeah. So bro, and this is interesting because when the last time, like we talked on camera was, Essence in 22, maybe 23.
Yeah.
And I was going through a divorce at that time.
Okay.
And felt very similarly to I do in this transition, right?
Really?
Around, I'm making a decision that feels best for me. I know that other people are going to be hurt as a result of it.
Mm-hmm.
I know on the other side of it, it's ultimately going to be what's best for me and what's best for everyone involved. Mm-hmm. However, it sucks to know that my decision or my actions are harming someone else.
Right.
And that's a place that it's a pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that I'm struggling with that, those emotions. But I think like it comes back to the question that you asked is like, is that a realistic expectation of yourself? Mm-hmm. And are you stripping yourself of joy by worrying what other people are feeling or thinking or how they're going to process it? Because they're grown people too.
Right.
Who are making their own decisions for themselves.
Right.
And if any of those people made those decisions for themselves, I would be happy for and proud of and excited for, you know? And so it's hard for me to be able to put the mirror to myself.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important that we as Black men have therapists or have these conversations with each other so that we have someone that's lovingly expressing those things to us.
Yeah.
Or making us reflect on those things.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? Again, we got to go back to the space that you create. Yeah. You're a space maker. You make a lot of space. Yeah. And that's a lot of Black men. We make space for a lot of people. We create space. We're good at creating space. A lot of Black men don't even know that they're creating space when they're creating space. They just are used to it. Absolutely. Like if you have someone that's a friend that calls you all the time and like is telling you stuff. I used to have a friend that would literally just call me at 3 a.m. Not saying this is healthy. It was actually very unhealthy. But at the end of the day, right? Yeah. Call me 3 a.m. randomly. Yo, this is what's going on. Crying, da-da-da, blah, blah. Yeah. And I'm literally don't know that I'm creating space, but I'm creating space. Yeah. Right? Unwillingly and not voluntarily because like it's emotional dumping, which is a real thing. But at the end of the day, I'm creating space. Yeah. You get so used to creating space as a Black man that you don't feel comfortable being on the opposite side of that, which is like taking up the space. Yeah. Right? Like it's not normal for a human being to all the time be the one creating space. Even therapists have their own therapists and they're creating a space for other people, but they know at some point in time, they're going to need space created for them. That's it. And they're going to need to take up that space as well. So I just feel like, I feel like the universe introduces, when I say the universe, like that's to me, like I'm talking about God, right? But like at the end of the day, right? I feel like in the world, right? Like when you have things that you're going through that are repeated, it's God telling you that this is something that you need to look a little bit deeper at. Because if you notice it's a pattern, that pattern is not going to stop until you break it. You feel me? You're going to continuously have some iteration of this in your life until you integrate the lesson. Yeah. Like that's a real thing. I said this before on a podcast, bro. So it's so interesting that we're talking about it right now. Yeah. I've said, like, and the way I always drive it home for people is you have a friend or somebody in your life that you're like, why does this person continuously make the same mistake, do the same thing over and over and over? Like, why are they continuously making the same mistake over and over and over again? Yeah. And it's because, again, there's levels to growth. You get to a certain level, you face a certain challenge, and until you integrate the lesson from that challenge, you will not get to the next level. Yep. It will seem like it. You will have a lot of things go on, and then eventually you will have the same challenge again in a different way, packaged differently. Yep. But it's the same challenge, and you have to integrate the lesson, or else you're always going to be repeating that level that you're at. So I just feel like it's important for you in this period, bro. Yeah. Take stock of what you're feeling. Take stock of what you felt before. Understand what you did before. Understand what you're doing now, and maybe you want to flip it a little bit. Maybe you want to adjust the way that you approach it, bro, because until you integrate the lesson, bro, you're going to continue to feel, you know what I'm saying? You're going to continue to feel these feelings as you navigate these things. And it's not going to stop. You're going to always have to make decisions that are in the best interest of you that sometimes come at the expense of others. That's just life. It's life. You feel me? So, yeah, man. I want to ask you, what are the societal factors, bro? Because you mentioned, like, there's some societal factors that you feel like are contributing to you not being able to take up that space. And I feel like you being able to speak to that will give another black man the opportunity to feel seen.
Yeah, I mean,
in this moment, yeah.
I think masculinity in and of itself, right?
Okay.
Right? Like, we feel that we have to be protectors, we have to be providers. Najo and I were talking about this too. The similar scenario is, Kier Gaines?
Yeah.
Kier,
good brother.
Yeah, good brother, right?
Yeah.
Kier was talking about, on a separate podcast, was talking about not having permission to show our feelings, right? And he used an example of...
Yeah, I know exactly what I'm talking about. That. Yeah, no, go ahead. Please do it.
Yeah, so he basically used the example of...
It was great.
In the middle of the night, someone is like breaking into the house, and him and his wife are both like, oh, snap, like we got to do something. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to get whatever I need to protect ourselves. I'm going to go check out what the deal is. Turned out that the door was just like it was a sensor was broken. He closed the door. And he felt like at that moment, only he could feel, or only she could experience fear.
Yeah.
Because he needed to make sure he did whatever his duty was, right? And Najee and I were talking about how both of them had permission to be afraid. His response, whatever his response was to that, was my feeling of responsibility outweighed my feeling of fear in that moment. And so I was going to act regardless, but I still had permission to fear. And I think that we don't often talk about, like, we have permission to feel all these emotions.
Yeah.
Some of them have to outweigh each other in terms of action.
Yeah.
But regardless, like, we are feeling those feelings. Do we name them? I struggle with naming them to people that are also experiencing those same feelings that I might not have to deal with. So, for example, using me transitioning in the job situation is, I'm fearful of what's next. My fear about what's next is rooted in, or the way I can control of that fear is, I can make sure I hire and onboard that next person to be the best person possible for our school. Whereas that everyone else's fear around, like, what I've been able to be for them and what this person could or couldn't be for them, I can't address that fear for them. You know, I can't give them reassurance there. And not being able to do that makes me more anxious or gives me more fear. And I can't, it's hard for me to articulate to you. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm going to do everything in my control to make sure it's as positive for you as possible, but I can't promise you that it's going to be good.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah. Ooh, bro. Yeah. You know what I'm hearing right now, bro? You're struggling with the lack of control that comes with making a decision that's in your best interest that impacts other people.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lack of control that comes with that. And I feel like us as black men, yeah, man, we're such an interesting, like, man, society is so interesting, bro. Like, because we're taught to be protectors and providers, we think that we have control over, like, everything.
Yes. Or we're supposed to.
Like, we feel like, because we're, like, ingrained with the messaging that you're supposed to be a leader. You lead your family. Yeah. We equate leadership with control.
Yes.
And because of that, when we have moments where we really realize we absolutely have no control over the situation, it causes anxiety.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh shit. I can't control this.
Yeah.
What the hell do I do? All I know how to do is control things. Like, I'm supposed to be in control. That's why I talk about God so much on the platform, bro. Yep. Because, bro, once you realize you don't have control over stuff, it literally will drive you crazy unless you have a higher source that you have faith in.
Yep. The tough thing about that is, I think it's challenging for me because I have faith in whatever God has for me or what's next for me is for my good. Like, my fear is not even connected to that.
Yeah.
I would not have made the actions if I didn't believe that that's what God wanted for me. It's challenging being in a space where, because a public school, I struggle saying, God's got you. God got us. We good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or people who may not be believers or people who don't believe or whatever, right? And so I think that's been an interesting thing in which I haven't been able to communicate spiritually why I feel like we're good or why I feel like it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the way that I'm able to clearly articulate how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Because I feel spiritually that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm interrupting this podcast episode to let you guys know to leave a review on the podcast. Please, 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 if you are listening to this episode and you're finding value in this episode, you're enjoying the conversation, or you've enjoyed a previous episode or conversation, and it's safe to operate your phone right now, please leave us a review. Your review is a free and easy way to support us, and it helps us reach more people like you. We're on a mission to build a stronger, more connected Black community, starting with Black men. And you can help us on that mission by taking a minute out of your day to leave a review. Your review helps us generate more listeners, which in turn generates more revenue, allowing us to expand the platform even further. So please take a few seconds out of your day. I know you're busy. I understand. I know you're doing a lot, but it will help us greatly if you would just take a few seconds out of your day to leave a review right now. Did you leave a review yet? All right, let's get back to the episode.
And this is the thing, right? Like, with that, like, I know you mentioned there's some people that may not believe, right? Like, this feeling right now that you're feeling of, like, I don't know if it's like relief or release or whatever, like, that's not for everybody. You know, everybody's going to get their own, you know what I'm saying? You're still, in a sense, trying to have some form of control.
I am.
Like, you are.
I am.
You're still trying to have, because you're like, okay, well, if everybody believes in God, then at the end of the day, we'll be good.
We're good. But
no.
But I can't. You can't.
Exactly. You have to realize, bro, again, bro, and this is what we try to default to as men, is like, we're trying to figure out how can we control the situation to get the outcome that we desire.
Yeah.
You gotta let go of the outcome that you desire.
Got to.
Because at the end of the day, bro, like, this is not a situation you have control over.
Mm-hmm.
You have control over the decision that you made, and that is it.
That's it.
That's really it. How it impacts other people, how other people feel about it, what people say, what they do, what they think about you. Mm-hmm. All of that is how you control. And the more you leave it in your head to sit and think and ruminate about, the more you'll be anxious and the more you'll overwork yourself to try and find solutions and implement solutions and actions that can lead to you controlling an uncontrollable. That's how we navigate ourselves into burnout sometimes as Black men. Trying to control the uncontrollables. Cause we're like, yo, nah, you know what? Nah, if I just work a little extra hard and I do 3 more hours and I send out 8 more emails and I talk to this person, do meetings with all these folks. Mm-hmm. Now you burnt out and you're convinced that this is what you're supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. Like, mind you, in your head, you're convinced this is my responsibility. Yeah. But it's again because you've been taught that as a leader, that leadership equates with control over everything and everyone. And it's like, bro, no, bro. There's some things that you just got to be like, you know what? Did my best, tried my hardest, and I understand that certain people may have some type of feeling about this, and we can have those conversations. Not saying you duck the conversations, but at the end of the day, trying to make sure everybody that you have responsibility over, especially as a leader of like an organization, trying to make sure everybody feels a certain type of way, like it's going to drive you nuts, bro. So I can truly understand, because I want to get back to you talking about you potentially like you kind of having like a panic attack and all that. Yeah. I can understand why you would have that.
Facts.
Because when you have all of these thoughts in your head about, yo, this person needs to be doing, and I talked to this person, it's going to lead to that eventually, bro.
Always.
This is why you're not God. This is why we aren't God. Can you imagine?
Yes. I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
You only doing it for like what? Let's say 1,000 folks.
1,000 people.
1,000 people in a school, and you're having a panic attack.
Yeah.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
God is doing it for billions of people, bro. This is why I just have faith and I just let go. Because I'm like, bro, I can't. I can't, bro.
Cannot.
And once you find yourself in a position where you're like, yo, I'm panicking about this thing, you got to take a step back and realize like, okay, I might be doing too much.
Yeah.
I don't want to say you can't have faith and panic. You can. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, for sure. But at the same time, it's like, bro, if you really, truly believe, you got to understand that with this decision, God was not only taking care of you.
Yep.
You feel me? Like, he's not only he loves everybody. So he's not going to make you make a decision that's in your best interest, that's in everybody else's worst interest. Like,
Exactly.
all things work for the greater good.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, this decision is not only working for the greater good of you, but also the people around you. And it may manifest in different ways. It may not all manifest next week or next month or next year. Some people it's going to take some time, but at the end of the day, it's working out for their greater good. And that's on them to figure that out, not you to like, yo, let's get in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Like, no.
Facts.
Nah, bro.
And so that being said, for this year, my 2 words are surrender and receive.
Love it.
Surrender and receive, bro, because my fault. It's 3 words. Surrender, receive, execute. Those are my 3.
Okay.
Because I feel like all the things you just described, man, like I have not allowed myself to allow things to just be. Allow things to just be. I have not allowed myself to receive. And then in terms separately executing is around like I've made a lot of plans or like things I wanted to do and haven't followed up on them. And I'm like, I want to execute. But like receiving and surrendering, bro, are like the 2 things that like when I'm able to do those things or when I've done those things historically, so much good has come from it. And the panic attack, anxiety, frustration, fear, those things have been minimized.
Yeah. One of the things I like about your story too, bro, is that you openly have talked about like dealing with depression, bro.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you too, like what was going on around your life at that time that had you dealing with that? Have you dealt with it since then? Like how do you navigate that?
This is like context. Like my mom grew up with depression. That was something that we were very open talking about in our house. Like just biologically, like how are we able to better support like our needs? And she was on medication. She called it her happy pills, right? It's like Miles' mom didn't take her happy pills today. I mean, that was always a conversation, but when I was younger, I was like, I mean, in high school, like was not open to talking to a therapist, was not open to talking to anyone. I was like, I'm gonna figure it out. And I also was playing like football, so like that was like my outlet. That was my way of getting frustration out, whatever. It was a healthy way of getting all that stuff out. And shortly, so like when my college football career ended, right towards the end of it, one of my teammates, who I considered a brother, died by suicide. And shortly, like 4 weeks later, I had to move and get ready to graduate. And it weighed so heavily on me, and like, talking about control, like what could I have done to prevent XYZ, right? But while my teammates had each other to be able to still be on campus with and grieve with and could continue to support each other, this was the first time I've been completely by myself. And I was in isolation, I was in community, and I was in Chicago in the wintertime. And like the worst timing and worst space to kind of be in my life. And I was at a place where I was experiencing like suicide ideation and like other things, and kind of hit rock bottom, bro. And I was like, I need to get some help. I don't want to be here in this space anymore. When I say in this space, or feeling the way I was feeling anymore. And then also had kind of a simple apathy of just like, I don't want to be here anymore. But if something happened, like, I wouldn't be all upset with it. And that's not me. That's not how I feel. And so started seeing the therapist, started seeing the psychiatrist to be able to get some of those things regulated for myself. And then was like, started feeling like myself again, and was like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to feel? Or this is how I'm used to feeling? Like, I didn't realize that this is what I was struggling with. And then got to a point where I was like, I know I'm not the only person feeling like this. How can I be able to, I think a way that I can honor my boy, his name's Dimitri. The way that I can honor Dimitri is by being open about this so other folks could know that it's okay to feel like this.
Right.
You can be a leader of a school. You can be a football player. You can be these things that people look at as people who have it all together and also have depression. And so I wanted to always use my Instagram platform for that reason. Or to be able to use that on Mondays. It was like a mental health Monday was like my thing for a while. And something I still like get back to, but haven't done this consistently. And then when I was able to be on reality TV, I really was like juggling whether or not I wanted to communicate about it, and decided, I want to be really open about my mental health journey because it's going to touch or impact somebody. And just the outpour of support, but then also of just being able to make connections. Like if I didn't ever talk about it, then me and you aren't sitting here talking about it right now,
Yeah.
And so like the connections and the things that have come as a result of that, bro, have just been so powerful. And I think it speaks to what happens when you surrender your plans to God, right? Like I have no clue. Like this conversation right here is going to touch somebody.
Yeah.
If it just touches one person, it did its job, but it's going to touch hundreds of thousands of people, in some way, or have access to touching those people, right? And so that's a really, really cool and special thing, bro.
Yeah.
And so, I'm glad to be able to share about it because it's a constant journey, man.
Yeah.
And like what that looked like 6-7 years ago to what today is completely different. And what it's going to look like 7 years from now is going to look very different. And I'm glad that I'm able to have certain skills and different things to be able to cope and be able to help other people do that.
Yeah, I love that, bro. So for you, like, I wanted to ask you, because there's some brothers that may be struggling with depression. Like, what did you find most effective? Was it therapy? Was it medication? Like, what did you find most effective for managing it?
Yeah, medication was helpful for me.
Okay.
It was helpful for me. I am in a place now where I'm like trying to get away from it just because I don't want to be dependent on medication for a long period of time. And want to use other means to be able to do that. Talk therapy was helpful for me. I think also it felt like one of those things where once I could name what the thing was, I could be able to solve for it, right? Be able to create a plan of support or a system to support me. And that's been really helpful more than anything. Like being able to just name, like, oh, I'm struggling with this thing. And I think that if we think about like our physical body, right? If we, I'm not really the biggest understander of diabetes, right? But folks who have diabetes have a certain treatment plan that they put in place to take care of themselves. And they know when they're in a good spot and they know when they're not in a good spot, and they have things that can help them be able to do certain things. Or they know I avoid these things, I'll be good. Or if I don't avoid these things, this is what happens. And so I feel the same way about like my mental health, right? Like I know if I'm scrolling a lot on social media, regardless of what I'm looking at, I'm probably not in a good space because that's not how I want to spend my time, or that's not what gives me energy, or the energy that I want. I know that if I missed yoga 3 weeks in a row, I'm not in a good place. And so like that's a hard stop for me. Like I need to make sure that I get back on track. And then also being open with other people around me, so they know like, hey Miles, you're eating bad right now, you're doing this, you're doing that. I can tell that you're getting into a pattern. Let's switch it up. And going back to black women, black women have been folks who are able to say that to me and be like, hey, like, how you feeling? Like, are you okay? Hey, you been to XYZ recently? Have you talked to so-and-so recently? Just so that I want to make sure you're good. I want to make sure you're safe. And that's I hope that answers.
No, it did. You talked about talk therapy. You talked about medication. I want to get back to the talk therapy, bro, because I feel like one of the things that I really realized once I started therapy was that I did not know myself as much as I thought I did. And so I wanted to ask you if that was like a realization that you had as well. And if so, like, what were some of the things that you noticed or that you learned about yourself? Like, what were some of the most important things that you learned about yourself through that process? Yeah,
man. So I started talk therapy 2016, 17. Had a consistent therapist and that person, for whatever reason, it didn't work out anymore. And then I was in a moment of like, close to a moment of crisis and was like, you know what, I need to find another person. I found my preference was black women. Like I wanted to be able to talk to a black woman. And then I had a white man therapist. He was like with the student health at the time. And I realized like he was really helpful. Like he was a really good professional. He like was connected to me and I didn't think he would connect with me as intentionally. And then I like went a year or so without a consistent therapist and then found another one. And we've been rocking for a while. And one of the things that I noticed was, one, finding a therapist can be hard. Like finding that fit and that match is hard. But originally I remember being like, it's not for me because I haven't found the right person or preference that I have. And then when I found the right person or that felt like a good fit, there was a moment of just like, okay, this is what I need. This is what person that I need because they're pushing me and challenging me in ways that I didn't expect. And one of the ways that they challenged me was like, to their point, and what I've struggled with is trying to control the actions, feelings, thoughts of other people. Like you can't do that. And as much as it's well intentioned, like I genuinely want people to be at peace. I want them to be happy. I want them to do those things. I'm not in control of that. I'm not. And sometimes I think I could do things that can help to that. But then also if I'm doing that, why am I trying to do that? Why is it important for me that people feel a certain way? Like, why is it important for me that they think a certain thing? And so I've learned a lot about myself in that. And like, as you see, I'm still learning it, right? Yeah. And like some areas of my life, it's really, I feel really strongly like I'm able to surrender and be like, oh, whatever. Yeah. But in other areas, I'm not. And like, how do I continue to do that? And I think even this conversation, right, that shows up like in my romantic relationships, it doesn't feel like I'm doing that as much, right? But in my work relationship, professional life, that feels very different. Yeah. Like, why is that? And so I think that's one of the lessons that I feel like that's been one of the biggest ones. I gotta, actually, I want to, is it okay if I pull my phone out?
Yeah. I my phone out right now.
Yeah, my notes, one of the notes that
pull it up, bro.
I have from one of my favorite, sessions with him, bro.
Okay.
Was, I put it in a caption because I think that it was important for people to know, bro. Okay. And the interesting thing is like with vulnerability that like sometimes there's so much fear or anxiety before you share. But then like once you shared it, like other people are feeling that thing too. Yeah. And I think one of the things that I shared on Instagram one day was just in a moment of vulnerability, like went viral. And I had no intentions of it doing that, but it was because I was actually real with myself and real with other people that people like gravitated towards. And one of the things that that he said was, he was like, there's 5 things. He said, there's 1, at any given moment, everyone is doing what they believe is best for themselves. 2, being a hero in everyone's story is exhausting. You'll be the villain in someone's story at all times, and that's okay. 9 times out of 10, people aren't intentionally trying to hurt you. 4, every person is the center of their own universe. And 5, because of those 4 things, you should never feel bad for taking care of yourself. And like those things, I always go back to look at those things as a reminder of like, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay. And I think that's probably been the most salient lesson from there being, like things ebb and flow, like life's happening, but like those 4 things or 5 things, have grounded me in a way that I think is really helpful. Yeah,
I can literally see you. Literally just
bro. Every time
I'm reading it, I can literally you literally look like you just took a deep breath. Bro.
Yeah, bro. I probably did.
Yeah,
I probably did because it's important, man. And like it's so easy for us as the main characters in our own lives to think that everything is so big or heavy or whatever. Yeah, but ultimately, man, like, we're such a small part of the whole thing, and all we can control is what we can control.
Bro, that's a fact, bro. And the thing that you said earlier, I wanted to touch on it, but you were saying so much good stuff. Yeah. It wasn't even just this latest response, super early. You was like, man, I'm trying to, I control what I could control. You mentioned it during your response, and I'm like, but you don't, and in my head, I was saying to myself, like, but you don't feel like that.
Nah.
You said in your response, like, yo, I controlled what I could control. But I knew from the way you were saying it, you didn't feel that way.
Yeah.
You feel me? So like, again, going back to that, like why, when you control what you can't control, do you feel like you haven't done enough? Yeah. That's important for us as Black men to unpack. Yeah. If you've done what you know you can do, and you know you've done all you can do, why do you still feel like you need to do more?
Bro, and you get what I'm saying? On my wrist, bro, I have a I am enough bracelet, bro, at all times, because I have to consistently remind myself of that. And I think another lesson I learned from therapy and just my transition from being a student athlete to being a regular human. Not saying they're not regular humans, but like was as a student athlete, or as a student, you're being affirmed for like, hey, I did this on this test, or I did this on this paper. It was good. It was not good. There's a letter grade associated to it. As an athlete, you're being affirmed for what you've done on the field, et cetera, et cetera. But like when you're a leader, you're very rarely getting affirmation or validation for what you did. And as a type of leader that I am, I'm more often than not being like, when things are good, it's everybody else. They did those things. The teachers did those things. The kids did those things. The family did those things. The system was set up to be able to do that thing. But then when things are bad, it's my fault. And so I think that I struggle with like, and this is what goes back to a God thing, is like understanding that God put us here for a reason. God loves all of us like intentionally. We're like beautifully and wonderfully made. And like for me, I struggle with those like moments in which I don't feel seen, or I don't feel valued, or I don't feel affirmed, and then then whatever I'm doing is not enough. And like that's something I'm wrestling with, and I think that spiritually, mentally, emotionally, I'm wrestling with those things, because why am I seeking that external validation?
Right.
Why am I seeking confirmation that I'm worthy, or I'm of value, or what I'm doing is enough, when I know that I've done all that I possibly can do? That's a hard thing, bro. And I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm able to articulate it. Doesn't mean I'm not still like really struggling with it.
Yeah.
But I'm able to like, at least able to name it.
Why do you think why do you, like, if we, I want to get deep, I want to ask you, why do you feel like, and there's no perfect answer, but if you had to think about it, why do you feel like you feel that way?
If we go back to love languages, bro.
Okay.
Like words of affirmation is probably like top 2 for me.
Okay.
Like quality time is number 1. Word of affirmation is probably like 2. That's probably how I was parented. Like my parents are very like intentional with what they say to me. They praise me. I'm the oldest, so I probably got a lot of like you did such a good job, whatever. Like, oh my gosh, you walked today. Like that type of thing, right? Or like, you woke up this morning. I'm so happy you're here. Like, so I probably got a lot of that from my parents. As I said, I was a student athlete, so and I was in a lot of like leadership roles, so I was always being affirmed for different things. But then being a regular adult, like people don't care. Like people don't care what you're doing. And then also when you're in a leadership role, especially like one like mine where you're responsible for in a community of people, you're not getting a lot of praise. Like you're getting all the negative all the time, right? And so it makes you especially if you're not like early in my leadership journey, I didn't know what I was doing, bro. And so like people are poking at your insecurities all the time, right? Or things you don't know. And so you're like, am I good at this thing? Do I need to be doing this? Is my purpose this?
Yeah.
Is this what I really want? All those, you're questioning yourself. And so sometimes you need that reassurance and validation. I think we need that in all relationships. And so, I don't think it's bad to want affirmation. I think it's understanding why am I seeking that? Cause is it rooted in insecurity? Is it rooted, like, have I not, or who do I need the affirmation from? Or how do I get affirmation to myself that I am enough or that I'm doing well enough?
Yeah. And actually have it hit too, because that's important.
Yeah, and it land.
Yeah,
and it land.
Yeah.
And that's why having like talk therapy is important, because you are able to say this to a person who doesn't. At the end of the day, it does not matter. Like when they leave that space, to them, what's going on. Yeah. But it's a neutral party who's able to say like, did you do everything you could do? Yeah. Okay. Well, why is that not enough for you?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What other validation do you need? You did a really great job with those things. Or they can give you that validation that you didn't realize you needed, right? And that be enough. But trying to do that in isolation, trying to do that by yourself or expecting those things and then not then it's becoming an even bigger problem, because now you're being resentful. Now you're feeling like upset at other people because they're not acknowledging what's going on. When ultimately, if we're doing what we're doing because we're trying to make sure we're taking care of other people, or we're doing it for altruistic reasons, then we don't need that validation of affirmation from anybody else.
Right.
We need it from knowing that we're doing what God asked us to do, or what we desire to do.
Yeah.
And so I think that I mean, I'm glad you asked that question because I think that it's when we don't have a mirror, or we don't have someone who's able to like help you understand your thoughts. If you don't have a journaling practice, if you don't have a practice to be able to take care of yourself, it's very easy to get lost in that cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things you said too, you talk about affirmation, and I was talking about like, you know, having the affirmation hit. The reason why I said that is because I feel like a lot of times for us as Black men, even when we are affirmed or complimented for what we do, we don't receive it.
Yes, bro.
Like, just think about this. And I know people gonna say that I'm dragging it, but just, you know, bear with me, right? There's so many times where, like, we will get a compliment. Like, let's say you like my fit, right? You like, yo, bro, your fit is tough.
Yeah.
First thing dudes be saying most of the time is like, I'm trying to get like you.
Yeah, nah, man. Nah,
man. Nah.
Hey, I like your shoes. Or, hey, I like your shoes too.
You like,
so I have to do something.
Yeah, you feel me? Like, the first thing we do is we hit it back.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It's like we put a shield up immediately, like, nah, because we're not used to being seen. Mm-hmm. So as soon as somebody sees us, it's like, oh shit, I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So a lot of us, like, we want the affirmation, we want the validation, but when we receive it, we can't even enjoy it. We can't even actually receive it. It's not even receiving it.
Mm-hmm.
When it's presented to us, we can't receive it.
Yeah.
We literally have to hit it back to somebody else. So I think it's important for us to understand, like, yo, with the things that we're asking for, because we haven't received it a lot,
yeah,
there's going to come with some level of uncomfortability.
Yep.
And you have to work through that to get to the point where you're actually able to receive it and it's actually able to register. And that's some of the things that I work with my girl on that too. Because I noticed, like, my girl is so good at so many different things. I think she's so beautiful as a person, bro. But there's just certain things, you know, we all have our things. We just think about things differently about ourselves. And so it's important. Like, I told her, like, I was like, yo, babe, like, yo, when I give you a compliment, I need you to not, like, try to shoot that compliment aside.
Yeah.
Not because obviously I care, but not because, like, I feel like you need to listen to everything I'm saying, but because I was like, yo, bro, you're not allowing yourself to actually feel this thing.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't believe it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's times where I'll say something and I'm like, and she will literally, like, just not, it's like she will talk around it, or she won't even acknowledge it, or like whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, babe, nah, you gotta stop doing that. Like, and over time, and like at first it was literally like pulling teeth, because I'll say something and I would see in her head, she's either processing or she's trying to figure out what she wants to say.
Yeah.
And like, or maybe she will like literally default back to like just, you know, shunning it. And I'd be like, yo, nah, babe, you didn't accept that, you know, that compliment. So like, I need you to like really like come back and like accept that. She'll be like, all right, thank you. Like, I appreciate it. And now I don't even know if she notices. Like, when I compliment her now, she'll literally just say, thank you. It's just automatic now, but it wasn't like that initially. And I feel like it's important for us to like receive what's being said, especially for us as Black men. Because when we go back to what we talked about earlier with the creating the space thing, right? A lot of times we're not able to take up that space. And one of the ways in which we can take up space in conversation and just in life in general is when somebody actually sees us, allowing ourselves to be seen and deal with that level of uncomfortability that comes with being seen when you haven't actually been seen that much in your life. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you too about your upbringing, because you talked about your mom and like happy pills and all that, right?
Yeah.
But you didn't talk about your pops.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, like, what's your relationship with your pops? Like, that's your guy?
Man.
Okay.
Yeah. Me and my man, $100,000, dog. And like, our relationship, man, has been one of the coolest relationships that I've had in my life, right?
Okay.
Like, in that, like, my dad's upbringing and my upbringing are very different. Mm-hmm. His parents were, like, his dad in particular was absent. Mom was doing different things and like relied solely on her parents to be able to raise him, and he struggled with that a lot. And so he was like determined, I'm gonna be this is who I'm gonna be for my kids. Which he was everything for us. He was a provider, he was a supporter, he was he was all the things that we needed him to be and some. And one of the examples I always give about him is he was he's a person you always can count on. And if he said he was going to do something, he's going to do it. And like hung his hat on that. And if he didn't do it, he very clearly said like, hey, I'm not going to be able to do this thing. And here's why. And I think I carry some of that myself. Right.
Yeah.
And so he's been the best father I could ever imagine. I think that I'm the man that I am because of who my mom is, but also very much so because of the man that he is. And our relationship shifted from, when I got to college around, I'm your dad. So this is my role and this is your role. To, hey man, we're life partners now, right? Like I can, like we're friends now. Like here's the things that I'm struggling with so that you don't have to struggle with those same things, or like it's okay for you to struggle through those same things. But I want you to know that this is what I struggle with at that point or what I'm struggling with currently, so that you know that it's okay to feel those things and you can come to me if you feel that way. And I think that version of healthy masculinity being modeled for me, has been such a cool thing as we try to navigate adulthood, man.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard being an adult, man. It's hard figuring this stuff out. And I think that what that's leading me to is, how do I help provide that level of clarity and support and vulnerability to young Black men or young children, period. But like younger people, so that they don't have to go through the same things that we went through.
Yeah.
Because being a kid is hard, right?
Yeah, not fact.
That's hard to navigate. There's so many things, especially like the generations after us, because I was telling Nigel earlier too, right? Like they don't know a world without the internet. They don't know what it means to be bored.
Yeah.
They don't know how to like do certain things, but they have so much information constantly being given to them that how do you sift through like what's important and what's not, what I care about, what I don't care about. And so I think, so to your point, my dad, man, he's my dude, man.
Yeah, that's a good. That's a guy. I love that. I love that you talk about him being like a life partner that you can kind of get feedback and like advice on like life about. Because I have an episode with my pops, and I was asking him like, so what is our relationship to you? Like, can you describe what our relationship is like?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I feel like you're we're friends. Like I'm your big brother. And my dad is African. Like when I tell you, like yeah, like he's Ghanaian, bro. Like born and raised.
I'm not your friend.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, like born and raised in God. So like to hear him say that, I was like, damn, that's kind of wild. And it helped me to realize like at some point in time, like once I have kids, like they're not gonna be like they'll always be your kids, but they're not gonna be my child forever. At some point in time, that's gonna be like my friend. And like him saying that also helped me to see like just the transition that happens as you parent. If you parent, if you parent your kids well, like eventually you'll get to the point where y'all are able to be like friends rather than like, father and son or mother and daughter or whatever. So that was real dope to see, man. Like, so you feel like your parents or like your relationship with your pops is like what kind of like influenced you to get into like teaching or school? Like what do you feel like influenced that decision?
I come from a history of like educators and helping people in helping professions. Like that's the thing. Coming when I was 16, I knew I wanted to run a school. Like that was something I wanted to do.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
man, most 16-year-olds like, hell no, I don't even want to. Like, I'm out of it.
I thought it would be such a cool thing because like I enjoyed school. My experiences in school in high school, elementary school, middle school, high school were all really positive experiences.
Okay.
College was great. And so I just really enjoyed school. I was good at it, right? Like, I think like there are certain skills that you have that we're taught that are like make you be good in school. I just enjoyed it. And I was like, if I can have this experience, how can I make sure that all kids got that experience, especially kids that look like us? And so like really, really wanted to do that. And my mom was like all for it. She was a teacher. She's my first Black teacher in 7th grade. And I was like, yo, cool, I'm gonna do it. And then my dad, has a business background. And so I remember one of the first things that he said when I told him was like, that's not gonna make any money. And I was like, I don't really care about the money. I want to help people. And he was like, yeah, but like, how about you make money first and then help people after that? And I was like, nah, right? And that was like one of our moments of like tension because I was like, you want me to make money, I want to be able to do this. Those things don't feel like they can intersect. And what happened when I made that was one of the first choices I made for myself, was like, I'm going to major in social work because through social work, I can help people. And if I help people, if I get really good at helping people or finding ways to be able to support other folks, like, I'm not going to be working a day in my life. I'm really going to be enjoying what I'm doing. Now I'm at a place where I'm a school leader. I work really, really hard. Like, the output is a lot. And educators aren't fairly compensated for what they do. Even principals aren't, right? Okay. So all the different roles that I have to play, I'm not fairly compensated for. So now I'm in a space where I'm like, I want to get compensated for what I'm doing and get my time back to be able to maximize what that looks like. And so, to answer your question like more succinctly, it's like, yeah, they pushed me towards it, but also have like that's shifting now to my dad's able to see where he is in his point in life, where he's like, okay, I've made the money. Now I want to care. Like, I want to have purpose in what I'm doing. Yeah. And be able to like supplement my income or be able to have a income and a lifestyle. And so it's really cool that we're kind of we started at opposite points, but now we're like converging. And right. I want to be able to see how the work that I'm doing or want to do in the world he can also be a part of that work with me. Right.
Yeah. No, that's dope, bro. And you know, I think it's so important to have Black male educators and faculty in school, bro.
Yeah.
I can probably like, I think I only had, and I'm trying to make sure, I was just thinking about this. In my entire school career, I think I've had definitely less than 5 Black male teachers. Probably less than 3. And I also went to HBCU, mind you.
Wow.
So I'm also including college. You know what I'm saying?
So 3.
I'll probably say 3. I had 1 in high school and maybe 2 in college. I know 1 for sure in college. I'm just assuming that I had 1 extra one that I'm just not remembering.
Yeah.
So to say like I went 20 something years and in that time, I'm spending the most time in school.
Most time.
And I'm only seeing 3 people.
3.
That look like me.
3.
That actually like really look like me and can resonate with what it is that I'm feeling and experiencing. Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And so,
I experienced it. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Yeah, and so this is what I'm saying. Like, I'm saying this to say we need more Black male educators and more Black male faculty in schools, because a lot of times, like, yes, there may be a behavioral issue with a Black male student.
Yeah.
Would he rather hear from a Black male or a white male? Would he rather hear from a Black male or a Black woman, right? Like, and there's nothing wrong with our sisters. Again, I went on a rant earlier about our sisters and how much we appreciate them.
Yeah.
But when it comes to resonating with Black males, we do that the best, right? And so if we want Black males to do better, if we want Black men, Black boys to do better in school, we have to be the model and the example that are in these institutions, showing them what that looks like.
Yeah.
And I feel like because there aren't a lot of us, that strips the experience for the Black boys that are coming up through middle school, high school, college, because they're not able to see a model of what it should look like.
Yeah. Or what it could look like.
Yeah, what it could look like, bro. Yeah. And like, I just think it's so important, bro. And I wanted to ask you, like, one, you've gone through the process of being a principal.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to brothers that are potentially looking to pursue like that same type of path, or like looking to pursue education as a career?
Yeah.
What advice would you give them, and what can you tell them about what to expect?
Oof.
Yeah.
That's a whole different podcast episode.
Yeah, I know.
That's a whole different podcast. I think one, like reach out to me, bro. Like, for real. Like, I really, one of my passions is being able to support like other Black men doing this work.
Yeah.
No, less than 2% of educators are Black men. Less than 2%, bro. So, and if Black people are 13% of the population, right? Let's say that. Who is teaching our kids?
Right.
Who's teaching our boys in particular, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that the really cool thing about being able to be in my role is, so originally I was like, I want to teach a school full of Black children. The school that I'm a leader of is 75% Black or 20% white. And then the rest is either like growing Latino population, Asian students, etc. And so how beautiful it is for Black kids to be able to see a Black male principal is great. But also it's equally important for these little white kids to see what a Black man is.
Right.
What a Black man isn't.
Right.
Like your favorite, like the person that you look to as your principal or as a person who's a leader, who's loving, who's nurturing, who's firm, who's all these different things for you is a Black man. And like that changes what their perception of Black people are just as equally and just as strongly. And so I think that's a really cool thing that I enjoy. I think for other Black men who are doing this work, man, like receive the development, receive the support, ask for it, advocate for it because you deserve it and you need it. But then also like know that people, like we need you in this work. I think a part going back to our conversation earlier that I struggle with is I know how much we're needed in this work. And so me saying that I'm leaving that work also feels heavy because I'm like, they're not going to find a Black male elementary school principal is like a unicorn. I'm one of two in New Orleans. Shout out to Dr. Ryan. But also like, I don't know how many in the country, right? Yeah. And so how do we create more people that like that? How do we make the job sustainable for them to be able to continue doing this work? How they compensate it fairly? How they develop intentionally to allow for more Black children to have access to Black teachers and Black educators, especially Black male educators. Yeah.
Are there any challenges that you went through as a principal, as a Black male principal? Like, if there are, like, I know you probably have a bunch.
Yeah.
What was like your number, like the biggest challenge that you had to navigate?
Especially in a women-dominated field. And also white woman-dominated field. No matter what's going on, I'm either perceived as Black or I'm perceived as a man. And like not ever fully seen for my full humanity. And so then it's very hard to hold people accountable to the problematic things that they do or say. I remember an instance, for example, of I dressed up as Santa Claus one like winter time, Christmas time, and there's 5 students with me, and they're all like taking pictures like this or doing peace signs or whatever. And I put it in the family newsletter, and a white lady said, I don't think it's appropriate for kids to be throwing up gang signs with Santa. And I was like, man, I remember sitting there and being like, these are 6 and 7-year-old kids.
They were Black?
All were Black.
Right.
Throwing up peace signs, doing this. One, I was like, first off, you don't even know what they're doing.
Right.
2, why are we assuming it's gang signs?
Because they're Black.
Yeah. But 3, I had a white kid doing the same thing, like literally the same thing. One of her friends and one of her kids' friends did the same thing in a picture, and she never said anything about it. And I put it in that same newsletter. And I'm like, the emotional labor that it's going to require for me to communicate to you that you're tripping is stuff that someone else is not going to have to experience. And that challenge in and of itself is one that is just unique to Black people in the role. But I think also like, I think that there's this invisible, that people call it the invisible tax of being a Black male principal or Black male educator, in that you are expected to, or you feel responsible for Black boys in particular, Black people in particular, of women in particular. And so the labor that's required of you is different than everybody else. And that's a challenge that, as we've talked about, like you can tell I feel, but also like really is unsustainable.
Yeah.
It's really challenging before.
The work that you do is so important, bro, because Black boys, that's where it starts. That's where what I mean by where it starts, I mean like all the this is what my identity is. Like, I need to be protector, provider. I need to be doing this. I need to be doing that. And I have no capacity to take care of I feel like all of that starts there, right? All of the, like, I'm seen as a threat, all of that with the white lady, like, similar stuff happens all the time. All these, like, little small covert things that indirectly influence and teach us things about ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask you, bro, like, what do you think, well, not even what do you think, how do you create space for some of these Black boys to be able to navigate and define their own identities in school? Because they're getting so much messaging from everywhere else, right? And I feel like it's important for them to be able to say, like, no, this is who I want to show up as. So how do you create that space? Have you been able to, like, and if so, what does that look like? Because I feel like some parents could benefit from hearing, like, what you've done.
Yeah.
With some students.
That's great, man. I think so much of it is like social emotional learning and development, and like allowing kids to one giving kids a language for what they're experiencing and they're feeling, understanding that, like, I'm mad or I'm sad. Like, what are what other emotions? We have a big feelings wheel at our school, right? Like, okay, you feel mad. All right, let's dive in a little bit deeper. Are you feeling frustrated? Are you feeling disappointed? Do you feel like you're not being heard? Like, let's dive even deeper so you can say, like, this is how I'm feeling. This is why I'm feeling it. And it's okay that you're feeling that right now. I think that we, in our discipline policies, are very restorative in our approach, in that we want to address, like, the harm that was caused. So let's say two boys get into a fight. All right, what happened? Like, give me exactly what happened. What were you feeling before that thing happened? Why were you feeling that? And then also, like, how can we make it right? Because I think that we don't take the time to sit down with kids or with people and say, like, what was the underlying thing that allowed, or that caused that thing to happen? And so if we get to the root of that, we can prevent a lot of different things. Right. And so if I'm angry and then I hit somebody, what other strategies or tools do you have in your toolbox to be able to not hit somebody when you're angry or upset? What else can you do? Can you go take a walk? Can you communicate that with your words? If you can't communicate with your words, like, how can you signal to somebody that, like, I'm not okay right now? And I think I'm proud of the work we've done in that way. I think that what that also lends itself to is, in some schools, can be like, oh, well, the kids are identifying their feelings. They're able to articulate what happened, but, like, there's no consequences. Nah, like, if you hurt somebody, like, if you are physically hurting somebody, that's not okay here. Like, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk to you about it. We're going to understand why you were feeling what you were feeling. You might have to go home for a day. You might have to take some time away from our community, but we're also going to welcome you back into our community with your family and talk about, hey, this is what he was feeling. This is what happened. This is what we're going to do going forward to make it right. And this is what we're going to do to prevent it from happening again. And I think, like, that whole continuum, like, is a really, really important thing. Of, like, behavior is, like, learned and it's taught and it's a skill. And so, like, we have to continually teach it, just like we would teach a math problem or we would teach kids how to read. Right. And I think that because it can feel deeply personal, or we don't have control over how people respond or behave, we feel like we have to, like, be either punitively control it, or, like, we don't know what to do with it, so we kind of, like, get away from it. But, like, we have to teach those things. All of these things are taught, and every moment is a learning opportunity. And so I think, especially for Black boys, like, they need to know that, like, they can make a mistake and bounce back from it. Right. They need to know that I can feel this thing and it's okay for me to feel this thing. And so I have these strategies or have these tools at my disposal that if I'm feeling these things, I'm not harming somebody else in that. Or if I do, here's what I can do to make it right. Right. I think learning that at a really young age is going to hopefully support kids to be able to get to a place where we're able to have conversations like this. Right. I'm feeling sad. I'm disappointed. I feel, and that will hopefully support a generation of young men who are reducing the harm they're causing to women, reducing the harm they're causing to one another in our communities, because they're able to articulate what's really going on. Yeah, raising a generation of emotionally intelligent Black men, bro. I think that's what it's all about. And I want to, also make space for the folks that may be struggling with
the societal expectations and pressures that come with that, bro. So, like the provider and protector thing.
Yeah.
I know a lot of us that, you know, we're older, we're adults. Like we've been able to wear that badge and be like, okay, I'm cool with this. But initially, there's a lot of pressure. Once you realize as a black boy, like, damn, I need to make sure, like, at some point in time, I'm going to have to do what I see assuming their dad is present, I'm going to have to do what I see my dad doing at some point in time. It's a lot of pressure that goes with that.
Or I have to do the things that I see my mom doing that I don't want to see her have to do.
Right, exactly. There's a lot of pressure that comes with that. And so there's a lot of like struggling to grasp that reality initially. Yeah. And so I wanted to ask you, have you seen some of the black boys in your school struggling with that? And, you know, if so, how do you help them navigate that? And if not, like, are you creating space for like some of those conversations as well? Yeah. Because I feel like that's important. Like how dealing with the fact that like, yo, I know I need to be a provider and protector at some point in time. And like, there's some kids that just struggle with that.
Yeah, like the kids I'm working with are so young right now that like I haven't seen that happen as much. I do see a lot of young boys have to grow up or do things or are exposed to things that they shouldn't have to be exposed to or exposed to at a very young age. So they do feel more culpable or responsible for their actions or the people around them. I've definitely seen that. Those conversations are hard, man, because you have to be in community with their family or connection with their family to be able to say like, he doesn't need to carry this. Or, hey, Miles, you don't have to hold that weight, right? You're able to be a kid. You're able to do XYZ thing. You're not like, it's really hard when you're 11 years old and you're responsible for your 7-year-old, 4-year-old, and 3-year-old sibling and getting them up in the morning and making sure they come to school, right? Like, if you have to carry all that, then you're in class and you don't understand what's happening in the class and you're just laying there and trying to like have a moment of peace for yourself and your teacher's sitting there pressuring you and saying, hey, wake up, you're not doing XYZ or I'm kicking you out of class. Like that's a lot to be holding on to in that little developing brain, right? And I think that what I try to attempt to do for our educators is like help meet kids where they are, right? Like so more so I think in my role, than having those direct conversations with kids as much as I do when I can. It's how am I training or supporting adults to understand here's how we can meet kids where they are. If this boy is tired and needs a nap, let that little boy have a nap, right? And I'm not saying that we're going to lower the academic expectations on this kid, but what this kid has going on outside of home, like this is the safest place for him right now. So let him sleep right here. Put him in my office. Let him take a nap today. Like, it's not going to be an everyday thing, but today this is what this little boy needs. And I think that level of oversight or that level of support sometimes it would only come from a black man who's able to see that and able to say, like, that little boy is trying to communicate this to us right now. He's like, yes, he might be walking out of class, but why is he walking out of class? What caused him to walk out of class? What can we do to keep him in the room? Or how can we make it not punishable if he does walk out of class? Let's give him a pass that he can only use twice a day. So he knows I can use it. But when I need to go out of class, I have this pass that I'm communicating to you. I need to get out of here and it's okay. And so I think that creating the systems and structures for black boys to be able to experience their range of emotions and feel those things and have the tools in their toolbox, like those things are the things that I enjoy doing. But then also it's like so important that we create for them so that they're not having to navigate a system that is actively trying to hold them back.
Yeah, you know what I really like about that, bro, is that you do the extra work to understand why there may be a certain response. I feel like oftentimes for us as black men, black boys, just black males, point blank period, it's so easy to just assume the negative in regards to why we may be responding a certain way because it's uncomfortable and inconvenient for other parties to acknowledge our humanity at times.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we're the ones that are out here, again, creating spaces for folks. We're the ones out here just providing, protecting. Yeah. And people want to just see us in that lens. Yes. Do this thing, shut up, get it done. I don't want to hear about the fact that you have emotions and feelings. I don't care that you're right. Yeah. No. You're a provider and protector. Provide and protect and shut up. And I feel like that's what frustrates a lot of black men when it comes to the conversation around expressing how they feel, because they feel like once I express how I feel, it don't matter, because at the end of the day, the people around me don't benefit from my expression. And so they don't care to hear what I have to say. And so I really like the fact that you talked openly about, let's understand why this child is feeling the way he's feeling. Yeah. Let's actually try to decipher it and dissect. Because I feel like a lot of folks don't do that. They don't do the extra work to try and understand why a black man or a black boy may be responding the way he's responding. Yeah. And then it leads to misdiagnosis, where it's like, okay, no, he just has ADHD, or he's just depressed, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, nah, maybe that's not even what it is. Maybe he's just stressed out from what's going on at home.
Yep. Or conversely, maybe he does have ADHD, right? And maybe medication will be beneficial for him. But we can't just say, oh, he's just bad. Or he's impulsive. Or like, he don't know what he's doing. I don't know what to do with him, right? All those, that happens on the opposite side of the coin, right? And so it's like, we have to be patient with kids, especially black boys, and like, figure out like, what do they need? What is he asking for? Have we asked him what he needs and what could be helpful for him? Because I think, because it's not a quick fix, especially with behavior can be deeply personal. And so if you see a black boy, every time that something happens, he's flipping a table over or knocking something over, like that's a lot to handle, right? That can be a lot. And I don't want to ever dismiss that. And what is he communicating through his behavior? Right. Why is he communicating it that way? Because if we take that time, then we're saving ourselves a lot of time by being like, all right, so whenever I publicly tell this kid or make him feel embarrassed or shamed, he does this, how do we make sure that conversation is a one-on-one conversation? Hey, hey, Kizzle, like, I see you having a rough moment right now. Like, what do you need? Or, hey, when I was giving instructions, you were talking. Like, don't talk when I'm giving instructions. But like, instead of saying, man, Kizzle, you always talking when I'm talking. Get out. Yeah. Right? Like that's, or like, like that, and that's not something you would want as an adult either, right? Like if I'm publicly shaming you as an adult, you're not going to respond positively to that. Right. But we treat kids as if they're not humans. Right. Right? And these black boys in particular, as they get older, they're seen as more culpable for their actions. So what you were doing when you were 5, that might be okay. But when you're 10, 12, and you're looking me in my eye, people aren't looking at you the same way. So I got to have that conversation with black boys around like, hey, you can't do that same stuff that you were doing before. And also saying that to other educators around like, he's 12. And like, that's a delicate balance. But I think that speaks to the importance of having black men in education or black men in those spaces to be able to say like, remind people this is a kid. Right. This is a kid. Man. And kid, I want you to be able to grow to be a man. And as a man, you got to be able to handle things in a different way. Right. And not that you can't feel and not that you can't express them, but there's healthy ways to do that. Yeah. Man, you just brought up something that I think is such an interesting conversation to have, and especially with an educator, someone who's been in an education space. When do you think people start looking at black boys as men? Like what age? Man. And there's no right answer. I'm just interested in your perspective because you've worked with so many children. You've seen so many different things. Like what age? I know for a fact when kids get especially, so I've worked in like predominantly like urban settings. So like Chicago, New Orleans in particular. And in high school, like some kids are responsible for like adult responsibilities. And so very well will talk to you like they're grown people or have grown people responsibilities. And so therefore are like, so high school for sure, a lot of people are like, man, you grown, you can figure it out. Yeah. They're not close to grown. Right. And while they may be able to figure it out, like still need that nurturing and affection and love and care. And so I would say around the high school age in particular, middle schoolers are starting to get there too. Like middle schoolers are getting bigger and like stronger and having to exposed to a lot more. I mean, we got 3rd and 4th graders, man, who have been exposed to things that I'm like, or saying things that I'm like, I have never would have known that stuff before. And so I think it really depends on like how big the kid is, and the size. And I think that's an unfortunate thing is like, you can't be a big black boy. You can't help that how big you are.
Yeah.
You can't help that someone can perceive you as a threat. And because of that, I need to be able to teach you very young how to process your emotions so no one else is perceiving you as the angry black boy or a threat to their safety out of respect and safety for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, high school for sure though.
Man, this has been a good conversation, bro.
Yeah.
I wanna wrap up with a couple of questions, bro.
Cool.
Just about how you navigate your relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you are creating space for like intentional self-love, self-care? Like what does that look like to you?
I've been much better about it, but always could be much better than I am.
Okay.
And so I think that the way that my life has always been on a school schedule my whole entire life. So I don't really know life out, like not in our school calendar, but like every break is very intentional about I'm not doing nothing I don't want to do for this entire time. Whether that's winter break, fall break, Mardi Gras break, whatever break, like it's only about me. But then how do I build that into my my daily and like weekly routine? I make sure that like on either beginning of my day or end of my day, I try to make sure I have like sacred time, right? Like that's my time to get my mind right, whether that's meditating, working out, listening to music, going to yoga, lifting, that like those things are like non-negotiable for my day. Because outside of that, my day can be anybody else's. Like sometimes not my own. I try to make sure I do that. I try to make sure that like I'm feeding myself with those like positive things. So like I don't follow people who are posting a bunch of negative stuff or stay connected to that. I'm reaching out to folks. That's what I'm doing a much better job of, is reaching out to people who are older than me. So like my grandfather, the person who I'm really close to. And he just has so much wisdom. Yeah. And like is able to put things in perspective. Like I'll tell him something's happening at school and he's able to affirm and like empathize, but also he's also like, man, you can't do nothing about that. You can't be right. And when you hear that from like an 80-something-year-old, you're like, you know what? Like, I really can't do nothing about that, you know? Yeah. So that's been something that I'm really intentional about. Yeah. But one thing I want to do better in terms of self-care, bro, is I need to, another thing I have done better at is spending more time by myself. I don't know how much time like we as black men spend by ourselves, like truly by ourselves, like going out and just like going to the library and just like kicking in there, or like recently I like went and sat on like the bayou. Like one of the things I enjoy doing is photography, and so like just taking a day a month where I just go and just like shoot random stuff, just for fun to explore. And like I that's something I'm getting better at, but I really encourage folks to do, because like that sense of wonder, or that sense of like not having to do something or be somewhere, do something for somebody else, like that's so important, bro. Right.
Yeah, that's very important, especially for us, because we're always doing, bro.
Yeah.
When it comes to, let me make sure I get this right, celebrating yourself, bro. How do you do that? Ooh. What does that look like for you? And or are you even doing that?
Man, no, I'm not.
Okay.
Nigel, who you're about to bring on here, the first person who like really pushed me on like, how are you celebrating yourself? I think he asked me something around like, what's something you're proud of, or something you've done that you accomplished recently that you're proud of, and then the follow-up question was like, how do you celebrate yourself? And man, I'm not good at it, man. Like, but one of the things I built into my day and into my system is like a system at school is like anytime we have a little win or a big win. I say, like, I have someone send it to me. I'm like, y'all, send me your wins. I need the wins. And you could like mark a win by putting a little trophy emoji, right? And so one of the things I'm doing in the course of like at the end of the week is like, I look at all the like little type of trophy emoji in my little messages, and I'm like, oh man, we have a lot of wins this week. Right? Here's some of the wins, and like think back on like what was my role in those things. I'm like, okay, yeah, I accomplished a lot. Like right now I don't feel good, but like we accomplished a lot this week, you know? And then from there, being like, all right, what's one thing I want to do this weekend and celebrate, right? Whether that's, hey, man, you get to go take yourself to ice cream, or like you get to like guilt-free, like on Saturday morning, sleep in, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So trying to celebrate myself in those ways, always gonna be better. But like that's a way I've kind of built it into my system, so that I'm like intentionally acknowledging the wins first, and then making sure I celebrate afterwards.
Love it, bro. I got one last question for you, bro. We have a new tradition on the pod.
Oh, snap.
We asked this last question, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a compilation video of some of the best responses at the end of the year.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So the question is, to a black man that's struggling right now, you know, what would you say to him? Right? What would you say to him that's watching, that's listening, and you know he's struggling right now? It could be with anything. It could be with what you've dealt with. It could be with anything.
Something I would want to say to someone is like, I want to validate, like, it sucks, right? It's hard. Like, what you're feeling right now does not feel good. And it's okay it doesn't feel good. And like, at the same time, like, you're not by yourself. It might feel like you're by yourself, and everyone around you may not understand like what you're feeling, but there are people out here that do. And like, the only way you find those people is if you're able to articulate what's going on with you. Because if you don't do so, no one's going to know. But if you're able to express like how you're feeling, bro, there's someone out here that can connect with you, that can make sure that you're okay, and get you back to feeling how you want to feel, or even better than you could expect to feel. And so I really want you to know that, like, you're not alone. You're not by yourself. You're completely valid for feeling the emotions you're feeling. And it's okay. It sucks. Like, it's hard, bro. But at the end of the day, there are people who can help. And you got to be able to receive it. You got to be able to ask for it, because nobody's going to do that for you. But once you do that, you will be okay, and you'll be in a better space. And so know that I love you, that people out here love you and care for you, like, genuinely. And receive that love, bro. And the only way you can do that is asking for help. And then when you ask for it, receiving it, and receive it every single day. Because today might not be the day that you feel ready to receive it, but you got to receive it soon, or you're not going to get any better.
My brother, tell the people where they can find you, bro. You already got it on the shirt.
Yeah, I got it on the shirt, man. Look.
Shout out, Shorty.
Yeah, so one of the things, man, I'm trying to do a better job of is, like, I typically deflect what you talked about earlier, right? I deflect all the attention or things to me, and an act of doing that today was being able to wear my Instagram, Twitter, I think is all at the mile as well. You can find me there. I'm working on figuring out what kind of content I want to create, and when I want to share. What I really am passionate about and love is talking about mental health, talking about love, talking about just like our feelings and emotions and what that's like. And then also just like really being really clear about just education I'm really passionate about, but also just like sharing life with people, being in community with one another. And so I have a wonderful community of people who follow me, that hold me accountable, that check in with me and make sure that I'm okay. And would love for folks who are like-minded to be able to follow me and be able to be on the journey together. And so follow me at the Miles Will, man.
Yeah. Miles, my brother.
Thanks, brother.
Appreciate you.
Man, thanks for creating the space.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you are planning an event, or you are part of your organization's Black employee group, and you are interested in having dope Black mental health professionals or myself come in and do a speaking engagement or a workshop or a keynote address or a panel, please click the link in our bio on Instagram or TikTok, scroll down and click book us for speaking and brand deals, and fill out the form available on our website. Once you fill out the form, one of our team members will get back to you about how we can collaborate and create something dope for your organization. This is an unparalleled opportunity. We are currently the largest Black men's mental health platform, and we have a few slots available for our calendar year, and we would love to partner with you to create something dope for your organization if it makes sense for both parties, right? So go to the link in our bio, scroll down, click book us for speaking and brand deals, and fill out that form. If you're not on Instagram, the link should be linked in our description of this episode. And it is also on our website. If you go to expressyourselfblackman.com/speaking-brand-deals. That's expressyourselfblackman.com/speaking-brand-deals. If you are looking for a therapist, a Black therapist, and you've had a hard time finding one, you've jumped from therapist to therapist, or you just don't know how to find a therapist, we are teaching a free webinar. It's completely free, taking you from not knowing how to find a therapist, not knowing where to search for therapists, struggling with finding good therapists for you, not knowing what to look for in therapists, teaching you all of those different things, and also giving you the opportunity at the end of the webinar to be connected with one of our safe haven healers who are Black mental health professionals, so that you do not have to go through the struggles of finding a Black therapist alone anymore, right? So if you're interested in that, you want to get connected with a Black mental health professional at the end of the webinar, or you just want to learn how to find a Black therapist by yourself, you can sign up for the free webinar. It's linked in our bio on Instagram and TikTok. You just click that free webinar link once you click the link in our bio and fill out the form. You can also find it on our website at expressyourselfblackman.com/links and fill out the form there for our next webinar session. If you're not interested in any of that, right, but you know someone that may be interested in it, all we ask is that you please share it. If you want some of the merch that we show on the platform all the time, that we're wearing on the platform all the time, you can shop it at shop.expressyourselfblackman.com. And once again, we just want to say thank you so much for watching this episode. Thank you so much for supporting us. Please, if you are on YouTube, leave a like, subscribe, comment. If you're listening to this on an audio platform, please leave a review. It helps us out greatly. Thank you so much for your support. We're wishing you nothing but the best, and sending you and your family and your loved ones love and light. Peace.
Sometimes I know you feel like you ain't got nobody to speak to. A shoulder to lean on, somebody you could preach to. No, you need to hear it, my brother, I love you. We got way too much to live for.